your host, Gary Austin.
Hi, this is attorney Gary Austin, and we are back answering your questions. So one of the questions that I get often is, can this person be around my child? Now, there's no clear answer in a lot of cases, but there are some things that courts will look at. One is going to be the safety of the child. Two, it may be the background of the person who you don't want to be around your child. And last could also be what is always the case, at least family law here in California, is what's best for the child. So let me start with safety. I was in a case today in which there's allegations between the parents that the children are engaging in inappropriate touching, and one of the parents doesn't want one child around her son. The court starts off by just telling us, I'm going to do what is going to maintain the safety of the children. Now, most of the evidence in these cases, when they initially start off, is probably not going to be as solid. A lot of it is hearsay or statements that are made, allegations being made against one parent by the other, and that parent isn't doing enough to protect the child. The courts aren't going to get away from the safety issue. It's just not going to happen. But what they're going to try and do is make sure that they keep enough distance and give enough time for there to be some form of investigation to take place, whether it be law enforcement, the court itself, Child Protective Services, or some other agency. That's where they're going to start, is to see if there any outside entity who can take kind of a bird's eye objective view, step back, and see is there anything to these allegations. So that's one area. One of the things they're going to look at into secondarily is possibly the background of the person who is alleged to have been engaged in this activity that one parent may think is harmful to the child. If you have someone with a felony record, someone who has a history of abuse, possibly even abandonment, that may factor into a court's decision when it is making temporary and even permanent decisions about where is it safe for that child to be, because no judge is going to want to put a child in harm's way. Last is the best interest of the children, because when these allegations come up, they're usually disputed. There is a disagreement about what's taking place. Again, is there any independent evidence to support or undermine or weaken the claim by one parent or the other? Because most judges that I've dealt with want to ensure, and I can say in today's hearing, the judge's biggest concern after safety was ensuring that the relationship between child and parent continued on, remained strong, and even got better as time goes on. But when a emergency situation comes up, there are allegations that are going back and forth. Safety first. Second, going to see what is in the child's best interest. And third, and the order changes other than safety, but they're also going to look into the background of the other person. So if you want to talk with someone about how to handle cases just like this, please feel free to reach out to us and let's see if we can help you with your child custody issue. All of the questions are somewhat common because most people find themselves if there's a dispute in these situations. So here's the question: can I move if the other parent disagrees? Well, the answer is yes and no. Let me tell you, the no is typically if there are custody orders in place, you are generally going to have to provide the other parent about 45 days notice before you actually move. If you fail to do that, you could be in violation of what are known as automatic temporary restraining orders and potentially have custody switched from one parent to the other. So generally, no. Now, the yes of this is there is a process for a move away, and most family law lawyers will have some familiarity with it. But if you are moving out of a county or out of state, you need to, one, notify the other parent, as I just mentioned. Then one of the parties is going to have to go to court and ask the court, is a move away appropriate? And the real question that a court is going to deal with that move, despite the disagreement, because there's usually always going to be a disagreement by the parent who may lose time or custody, is what is best for the child. Now, one other thing I don't recommend is to just move. I've had cases where parents have taken children out of county, out of state, and they have lost custody. And it has been devastating to their relationship with their children because they didn't understand the significance of the law. They didn't understand that they couldn't just disrupt the pattern or relationship that had been put in place, and they made a rash decision, and the consequences have been devastating. To answer the question, can you move if you disagree? To start off, I say no, but there is a process that you will have to go through. And I would recommend, whether it be me or another attorney, certainly you reach out and get some legal advice, but do it swiftly and be ready to take action. Because if you sleep on your rights, the move could occur and you lose your ability. If you are rash and you just take the child out, you could find your out of state or out of county, you could find yourself in the very same position, losing your rights, losing your entitlement to your child, and possibly devastating the most important relationship that you will have for years to come. If you'd like to talk with us about how we help people in situations like that, please reach out and we'll sit down and talk with you. More of your questions about family law and custody matter. Can I change my child's school if the other parent disagrees? And the answer is yes, you can, but there's no guarantees. Now, there comes what I in a lot of cases really starts in a child's youth when if the child maybe and the party split up when the child is an infant or very young and has not started school. At that point, there is no issue, but the suggestions I've heard and what I've seen in my own cases, once the child reaches school age, about maybe 5, 6 years old, kindergarten, first grade, the schedule has to be set for the child to do what's best for them. And it may be the case that one parent is going to possibly have to sacrifice or give up some time in order to do what's best for the child. That's usually going to start by going back to court and making a request of the judge to, even if the other parent disagrees, but making a request of the judge to have one of the parents' home be designated as place or home of physical custody that that parent had for purposes enrollment. Now, while again, there is no guarantee, you're going to have to show, one, that you've notified the other parent. It is not just pick up the child and take them from one place to the other. On the other side of that, the parent who may oppose the child being in one school or another probably needs to get into court pretty swiftly to make have their voice be heard, so that there is no acquiescence or agreement by silence, and that they let things go on. Something I say in many of these videos is that when you sleep on your rights, you literally sleep on them, and a court is going to ask, well, why didn't you do anything? So being prepared to come in, demonstrate the way forward, why maybe the change in school is not best, and why it may require a change in custody because the child may be in a better school district with you, may have better opportunities. But having your plan of action, being ready to get into action and present it to a judge is important when it comes to what school the child may be in. And the person who is usually best prepared likely can convince a court of why it's best for them to get into school, even over the other parent's objection. But I never suggest you simply pick up the child and take them to another school, because that could lead to the adverse or really harsh consequence of you may lose custody of your child by just taking a rash action. Now, if you have an issue like this or any other general family law issue, and you're looking for someone to work with, please reach out to us and let's talk about helping you in your situation.